The world can be a frightening place, which may be the reason why horror is such a widely accepted genre. It allows us to convert our current apprehensions into something more imaginary, while also providing amusement. Things get particularly fascinating, and sometimes disturbing, when the distinction between what is true and what is fabricated becomes unclear. It is often the case that reality is more bizarre than fiction. There are many strange happenings that occur in real life, without the need to exaggerate them. From cities that have never stopped burning, to disturbing ceremonies and hauntings, some of the most popular video games have been based on real-life events. Although the creators might have taken some creative liberties, the stories still have enough truth to make us stop and think. As horror-themed video games have grown to become a major part of the gaming industry, we are now listing a few of the titles which have included actual frightening places or situations that have happened in reality, so that the gaming experience is even more petrifying. But first, I need to warn you that caution should be taken when considering the following occurrences, as they are of an extremely upsetting nature. Furthermore, this video may also contain spoilers for certain video games. Kenichiro Toyama, the creator of Silent Hill, made Forbidden Siren, which was a well-known PlayStation 2 game. You get to play as 10 survivors in Hinuda, a make-believe Japanese settlement, as you try to stay alive and escape the Shibito, the living dead. Toyama's thoughts were heavily impacted by traditional Japanese legends while designing Forbidden Siren, yet he also drew on real-life events. Hinuda is situated in between reality and the afterlife, and it alludes to stories in which the locals were annihilated due to calamities, functions of humans, or different more wicked occurrences. We learn about the village's past, and discover that in 1938, a soldier who had just returned from battle killed 33 of his community members. In real-world events, 1938 was the year of the most destructive single-person mass shooting in Japan's history, called the Tsuyama Massacre. Matsuo Toi, a 21-year-old man, killed one-third of the population of his hometown of Kumiko Kurami. Starting at midnight, this nightmare lasted for 6 hours, with Toi killing 30 people and wounding 3 more, for a total of 33 casualties. In the morning, Toi ended the horror by shooting himself in the chest and taking his own life. After the massacre, the majority of the village's inhabitants moved away, and in 2003, the few who still remained said that not a single one had come to the village for the prior 65 years. Eventually, Kumiko Kurami was completely absorbed by the larger city of Tsuyama, and it ceased to exist. The association between the real-life massacre and the village of Hinuda in the gaming world of Forbidden Siren is undeniably conspicuous. Similar to the reality, the story of the soldier speaks of a massacre of 33 that annihilated the settlement. It's not a coincidence, considering the fact that the actual Matsuo Toi killed 30 people and harmed 3 others. Toyama has acknowledged this link when talking about his source of motivation for Forbidden Siren, asserting that the majority of his ideas came from a dark event that occurred in a closely knit community. Forbidden Siren was only available for PlayStation 2, but if you take your console out of storage, you can still buy it on Amazon. And by the way, the motive of the original massacre was explained through the notes and the diary of Matsuo Toi, which revealed his frustration and anger after he felt rejected by the women of his community because of his health issues and the disease he was suffering from.
my dispensing of existence.
According to History.com, MKUltra was a highly classified CIA project with the purpose of evaluating the possible use of LSD and other drugs for mind control, intelligence collecting, and psychological torture. These experiments included making the participants involuntarily experience hallucinations through psychedelic drugs and electric shocks, simply to observe their reactions. Most of these human test subjects were unaware that they were part of any experiment, and were observed by men through two-way mirrors while they were exposed to a variety of chemicals and stimulants. These disturbing events that took place ultimately inspired one of the most terrifying video game franchises. Project MKUltra, also known as MKUltra, served as the basis for the sinister activities of the Murkoff Corporation in the Outlast series. After the government shut down the project, Murkoff Corporation utilized the research for their own experiments on mind control and lucid dreaming. Even though the events in Outlast may be very far-fetched, but the fact that it stems from a real-life occurrence makes it even more frightening.
An assault upon identity. Establishment of guilt.
It also makes us wonder if there are actually other messed up experiments that might be taking place as we speak right now and we never heard of. Thinking about the idea is scary enough.
Harmony. Self-betrayal. A subjugation of perception. Guard. Chemical encouragement. Doctrine over person.
In the end, the only thing I saw was a flash, an insufferable burning light, the pain ripping apart my body. I felt it tearing out of my soul. After a while, I was nobody, nothing. The light went out and I vanished into overwhelming darkness. I welcomed
This terrifying game, which was released on the Steam platform in 2015, is set in Russia's Ural Mountain region and takes its cues from the mysterious 1959 Loft Pass incident that occurred in the same area. In February of 1959, 9 Soviet hikers from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, headed by Igor Dyatlov, perished in the northern Ural Mountains. The group had been camping on the eastern edge of Kholat Syakhl in the Russian part of the Soviet Union, and for unknown reasons, during the night, they cut their way out of the tent and ran away into the snow wearing light clothing, despite the cold weather. After the discovery of the group's remains, a Soviet probe figured out that 6 of them had died from hypothermia and the other 3 from physical injury. One of the victims had a major crack in their skull, 2 had serious chest trauma, and the other had a small fracture in their head. Out of the 4 bodies located in a stream, 3 had damage to the soft tissue of their face and head, 2 were missing their eyes, 1 was missing their tongue, and the other had no eyebrows. The investigation concluded that an uncontrollable natural force was the cause of death. Many different explanations have been suggested to explain the unexplainable fatalities, including animal attacks, hypothermia, an avalanche, katabatic winds, infrasound-induced terror, military intervention, or a mix of these. But despite all the investigations, this incident is still a mystery to this day.
Things I experienced in my past have led me here. I've conducted historical excavations, found bones, trained students. I've read hundreds of books. studied different cultures, seen people from every race and walk of life. But nothing ever touched me like what I experienced that day.
Number 70 Eye of Baser is an interactive adventure game where the player plays the role of the protagonist in a thrilling horror environment. This title features an engaging narrative to which the player will get access by exploring their surroundings, tackling puzzles, and collecting data. In the game, I play as Arhin. During my childhood, I lived with my grandmother and my brother Erez in an ancient residence located on a cramped road. We lived in that peculiar house with our granny for numerous years, and it holds many significant memories. On some nights, the abode was entirely silent, and unexplainable events would take place. Objects would often be relocated, and we would sense something passing through the door. One day, when I was passing by my grandmother's room, I saw a small chest. I reached for it, yet my grandmother got outraged and hit my arm. I had never seen her that mad before, and I never saw that chest again. Volkan Demir, the director of the game, disclosed that the game was based on actual events that happened long ago in the very same residence, which actually exists in the real world, specifically in an old abandoned house in a Turkish city. So next time you play the game, keep in mind that you can be reliving an actual experience in a scary place that exists in reality and not just in the imagination of the person who made the game. I think that will make the experience 10 times scarier.
Found lying just beside me one morning. I discovered many rooms in my own house with sealed doors that I had never seen before. I examined them and figured out I'd been looking at hierograms all this time. The more I investigated them, the more they captivated me. And the reason for all these things seems to be an eyepiece. I just can't figure it out.
Givaudan is an interactive horror experience that places gamers in the wild and puts their minds and reflexes to the test as they try to make their escape from the woods. We know that the monster itself is too terrible to have ever existed. But I'm sorry to tell you guys that this game was actually inspired by real-life events, even though it looks unbelievable. From 1764 to 1767, the Givaudan region in southern France experienced tremendous fear as the unknown creature took the lives of at least 100 people. This beast of Givaudan caused such a stir that thousands of men volunteered to find it and put an end to it. Even more hysteria was stirred up when people reported that it had supernatural abilities, such as the capacity to revive itself after death. Modern biologists are mostly of the opinion that the beast which caused the carnage was either a particularly savage group of wolves or a lion that had gotten away from a traveling show. Most people in those days would not have known what to make of the unusual animal they were witnessing, at least those who survived. Some historians also stated that this might be a case of a serial killer that was never caught, but this idea remained a theory and had no proof to back it up. Anyway, the fact that this creature was never identified will always keep our curiosity up high and make players see the game differently.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill.
The foggy, abandoned roads of Silent Hill appear to be too unreal to exist in reality. Nevertheless, the city of Centralia in Pennsylvania is the actual life version of the ghost town that has terrorized gamers for years. And just like Silent Hill, Centralia has had its own share of misfortune.
Christopher, Sharon's gone. I need your help. I'm not okay. Please, hurry.
The fire started 30 years ago.
I don't know what's happening. Do you know what's going on here?
Centralia was a flourishing mining village with a large and content population at one point in time. Nevertheless, in the early 1960s, an inferno was sparked off in the mine underneath the town. The fire spread rapidly due to the pockets of oxygen and coal, and it was beyond containment. Gradually, burning fissures started to appear in the earth, and locals began to faint due to the fumes that were leaking out. The fire is still burning to this day, and the population of the town has almost completely relocated, their numbers reducing to less than a dozen.
You must face the darkness of hell.
It's okay, baby. Mommy's coming.
Even though there are no pyramid-headed killers in the real Centralia, at least we hope so, but the real-life terror of being forced to abandon your home in fear of fire coming from the underground is exactly the type of stuff that you think you might only see in nightmares and horror movies. But sadly, this tragedy really happened, and we can't imagine the experience that the victims went through.
Mary? Could she really be here? Waiting for me?
Hell. I'm below 17,000 feet and acclimatized. I shouldn't be hallucinating. This can't be real.
Hundreds of years it's been up here, just waiting.
Sproing Interactive and Deep Silver Vienna developed the survival horror game Cursed Mountain for the Nintendo Wii. The player assumes the role of mountain climber Frank, who is on an expedition to save his brother. Unknowingly, his brother has released evil spirits and demons that must be overcome to find him. The idea for the game came from the actual story of Reinhold Messner and his brother Gunther.
You yourself must enter the bardo. Search for your brother and help him to return.
Reinhold Messner was the first person to make it to the summit of Everest without the help of supplemental oxygen. Before his momentous achievement, however, Messner experienced a deep loss. In 1970, Reinhold and his brother, Gunther, took on the challenge of climbing the unclimbed Rupel face of Nanga Parbat. Despite the difficulty of the trek, the two brothers managed to make it to the top. But during their descent, Gunther tragically passed away in an avalanche. Reinhold received criticism from the public due to the demise of his sibling, with a few people voicing their opinion that he should never have taken his brother, who had less experience on the journey. The storyline of Cursed Mountain, where a guy searches for his brother, is based on the heartbreaking story of the Messner family.
Your brother has used the power of the Terma to enter the bardo while still alive. He is wandering in the nether regions, trapped between worlds, powerless to move either forward or backward. It is still possible for him to return to this life, to be reunited with his earthly body.
One day I turned off the light, but it didn't go dark. I was 16 years old, and I was afraid, always afraid, a fear that wore me down. I needed help.
The Town of Light is a psychological horror game that explores the life of Renee, a young girl with a serious mental illness. She goes through regular periods of unconsciousness, has panic attacks, and hears a strange noise in her head. The story is set in Ospedale Psichiatrico di Volterra, a real-life Italian clinic where Renee spent a lot of her formative years as a patient and her search for information about her history.
My name is Renee. I was a shy girl and I just wanted to be like the others. But that's not what happened.
In the city of Volterra, located in the Italian province of Tuscany, there once was a psychiatric hospital that was founded in 1888. It was notorious for its cruel practices in dealing with the patients. However, in 1978, this hospital was shut down because of the implementation of the Law 180, which stated that all existing psychiatric hospitals must close. In the game, as Renee moves through the abandoned asylum, memories of her confinement and the events preceding it come flooding back. It is suggested that while she was a patient in the asylum, she was subjected to so many forms of mistreatment and abuse by one of the male medical personnels. So you can only imagine how sad and dark the story of this game is, especially when you find out that it's based on real-life incidents and tragedies. The scariest part of this place's history is the fact that a large number of patients who were brought to the clinic for mental health illnesses never made it back to their homes, which caused the hospital to be referred to as the place of no return by the people who lived in the area.
I was alone with my nightmares. Screams. Desperation. Loneliness. It wasn't fear anymore. It was madness.
This is it for today's video. We hope that we didn't cause any upsetting feelings for you, considering how creepy and disturbing some of the stories that were mentioned in this list, especially when you realize that the events actually happened in the real world and not just in the world of your favorite horror games. And by the way, we only listed some of the horror titles that were based on real stories and places, but not all of them. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see a part 2 soon, then make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to give us your opinion in the comments about what you think of these scary stories, or you can also help us by mentioning the games that you think should have been featured in this video. Anyway, stay safe guys, and see you soon.